Japan and Russia were in a situation of international confrontation over the leadership of Manchuria and the Korean Peninsula. In particular, with their victory in the Sino-Japanese War, China ceded Taiwan to Japan and took the initiative in Korea. However, what became a problem here was the problem of having China's Liaodong Peninsula. Japan, which had won the Sino-Japanese War, was supposed to have China's Liaodong Peninsula, but failed due to interference from Germany, Russia, and France. This is known as trilateral interference. Germany, France, and Russia did not help China because they were good, but because they all had interest in China. At that time, Western European powers were trying hard to gain an advantage in mainland China. Russia had acquired from China the right to build the Dongcheng Railway, which passed through Manchuria to Vladivostok in the Primorsky Territory, and even the right to lease in Kwandong Province. Germany had leased Gyeongju Bay and France even leased Gwangju Bay. Naturally, these powers did not like the growing influence of Japan in China, where they had vested interest. It was Russia who played an important role in stopping this through interference. Russia acquired the right to build railroads from Manchuria and began to exercise influence over Korea through pro-Russian factions in Korea. Japan was moving toward Joseon and Manchuria for their interest, and such a move by Russia was something that Japan didn't like. Japan could not give up Joseon and Manchuria and attracted allies. At that time, the United States and Britain, especially Britain, were working all over the world to block Russia's policy of moving south. In Asia, it was thought that if Russia moved south, it might threaten British naval hegemony. For a long time, Britain's diplomatic strategy had focused on trying to prevent the emergence of a country with dominant leadership on the European continent and encircling the island nation Britain. Also, Britain couldn't just let Russia try to increase its power in Asia. However, they were far away, so they tried to contain Russia through an alliance with Japan. The US also supported Japan because it wanted to enter the market in China and other European powers that were friendly to it, so Britain and Japan formed an alliance in 1902. In Japan, there was a public opinion that Manchuria would be given to Russia and Japan should have the Korean Peninsula, and this was communicated to Russia, but Russia rejected it. Russia ignored the proposal of such a negotiation from Japan, a small country that did not match its national power, and Russia was aware of the relationship between Britain and Japan, so it could not give up the Korean Peninsula to Japan, and the negotiations broke down. At that time, deep-rooted distrust of Russia was formed in Japan after the trilateral interference. In particular, anti-government politicians and the media were at the center, leading to a strong anti-Russian atmosphere. Eventually, Japan decided to go to war, and the war began with a surprise attack by Japan. Japan believed that war would be easy only if Joseon was on its side first, so it ignored the Korean Empire's declaration of neutrality and applied pressure to forcefully adopt the Korea-Japan Protocol. On February 9, 1904, the war began with Japan's surprise and preemptive attack. After that, Japan won the Battle of 2-3 in the Battle of Yeosun and the Battle of Bongcheon. Russia was increasingly falling into a quagmire of defeat, and decisively Japan succeeded in destroying the Baltic Fleet in the naval battle in the East Sea of the Korean Peninsula and won the war. By continuing to win the battles, the Japanese succeeded in repulsing the Russian forces on the Korean Peninsula and in Manchuria. However, Japan was unable to continue the war because the cost of the war was enormous. Basically, Russia was much stronger economically because Japan borrowed a lot of loans from Britain and the United States for the war, and it was risky to borrow anymore. The front lines to be managed were too wide to handle, and supplies needed for war, such as weapons and ammunition, were running out. Although Russia also suffered continuous defeats, it was possible to risk more because the basic number of troops and military power were greater than that of Japan. Internally, political chaos such as the Bloody Sunday incident deepened tensions, and prolonging the war would be the problem. In this reality, the United States wanted to end the war in a moderate way, and the United States was willing to mediate the war between Russia and Japan. At first, they did not accept Roosevelt's proposal, but as both sides faced a situation in which the war could not continue, the Treaty of Portsmouth was eventually signed.